that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 3 English lesson on future tense. And before we start with our lesson on future tense, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 3. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of future tense. All right. So we're doing future tense, right? And if we think of the word future, it's like somebody asking you what would you like to be in the future, right? Then it basically gives us an indication it is something that you still want to do or still want to be. So that is basically the future, meaning it did not happen yet. It is things that needs to still happen, or it's going to still happen, or it will happen. Right? So that is basically when we mean by future tense. And of course, tense just means that it is either present, past, or future. In this case, we're talking specifically about future tense, something that must still happen, and this is specifically in the future. It did not happen yet. So future can either be later on, future can be tonight, it can be tomorrow, sorry, can be next month, next week, next year, it can even be 5 years, 10 years time. So we're doing future tense. So our chapter is future tense. The subject that we are focusing on tonight is English. We are doing language arts, grade 3. And the lessons that we are focusing on under the chapter of future tense is to change the sentence to future tense. So we will be changing the sentence to future tense. So we'll basically do that specifically either by having certain sentences or where you are going to specifically show how you add or implement future tense, or you're going to change a specific sentence into future tense. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. So that is our tutorial lesson that we will be doing on A plus students.ca. All right, so future tense, right? So future tense, it tells us about something that is going to happen, right? It's like we said, it did not happen as yet, so it is going to happen. So that is future tense. And we use future tense, or to use future tense, right? We need to add will before the base form of the verb. So what we'll basically do is you'll specifically look at the verb, right? The action word and or the doing word, and then we'll basically add will in front of that verb or before the verb or before the base form of the verb. Right? So once again, we say the future tense. It tells us about something that is going to happen. And that is why I said it did not happen yet. Right? It's not happening now. It did not happen yet, which is in the past. It is going to happen. And usually, when it's going to happen, or not when, usually, when it is going to happen, we put the word will before the verb or before the base form of the verb. And if we look at this example, right, it says, he will walk to school. So he will walk to school. So he will walk to school. It basically, this is the future tense. It's an example of future tense. And why do we know this is an example of future tense? Because we look at the word will. He will walk to school. So we have the word will. We have the word walk. I'm going to circle walk. And walk is our verb, right? So we said that we basically add will, this word, before our verb. And in this case, our verb is walk. So verb is our action, it is our doing word, right? So we add will before our action or doing word. So he will walk to school. He will go to football practice. So football practice is after school, for example, then it means that after school he will go to football practice. So there we have will, which is the word that we add before our verb, and our verb is go. So which means that this is a future tense. If we look at this sentence, right, that says she plays with her dolls. If we look at that sentence that says she plays with her dolls, right? Oopsie. Then if we change this sentence, right, to the future tense, because this is currently present tense, right? So this is something that she's doing now. But if we change the sentence to future tense, right, here we have our verb, which is plays or play. This is our verb. We said our explanation was where we said that we add will before our verb. So if we say she plays with her dolls, then in the future, we will say she will play with her dolls. So this is now the future tense. And the word will within the future tense, it basically gives us an indication that this is the future tense. Will. It shows that something is going to happen. It did not happen yet, it's going to happen. And if we look at this sentence, it says, she plays with a doll, which means that this is something that she does now, but in the future, she will play with the dolls. So once again, our chapter is future tense. So we are doing future tense. And the future tense, it tells us about something that is going to happen, right? And to show the future tense, right, then we use the verb in the future tense. Our verb basically gives us an indication, or more like when it comes to the verb, we add will before our verb to show the future tense. All right, so now we're going to look at these three example sentences. We are now going to change these three sentences into the future tense. Ellie and Carly explain their reason for leaving early. So Ellie and Carly explain their reason for leaving early. So this is basically the present tense. How are we going to change the sentence into the future tense? What I'm going to do is I'm going to underline the verb. Remember we said with future tense, we basically add will. We add the word will before our verb, and that will basically give us an indication that it is future tense. So here we have explain, which is our verb. We have stand, which is our verb, and also explain, which is our verb over here. So these sentences, Ellie and Carly explain their reason for leaving early. How are we going to change this to the future tense? Because this is currently the present. What do we have to add and where are we going to add it to show that we are changing the sentence into the future tense? So basically, if we add so if we add the word will in front of our verb, then that will basically give us an indication of, or it's like we will change our sentence into the future tense. For example, Ellie and Carly explain the reason for leaving early. If this is our verb, right? And then we add will in front or just before our verb, and then we are changing the sentence now into the future tense. Now it's going to be Ellie and Carly will explain their reason for leaving early. So this word will gives us an indication that it is in the future tense, and it basically shows that it is something that is going to happen or it's still going to happen. So the word will. The same with number 2. It says, I stand in the lunch line with my best friend. Something that they're doing now. I stand in the lunch line with my best friend. But in the future, right? In the future, or tomorrow, let's basically say tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will stand in the lunch line with my best friend. So now I stand in the lunch line with my best friend. But either tomorrow or later on when it's lunchtime or tomorrow or next week, I will stand in the lunch line with my best friend. So, and as you can see, we basically just added will before our verb. And I underlined the verbs for us. Tan and Erica explain their reason for leaving early. So Tan and Erica explain their reason for leaving early. So this is something that they're doing now. So Tan and Erica explain their reason for leaving early. That is now. But we need to change that sentence to the future tense to show that it is going to happen. Our verb is underlined, which is explain. So if our verb is explain, right, and we change the sentence into the future tense, then we will say Tan and Erica will explain the reason for leaving early. So this word will basically shows that something is going to happen. So all we did was we added will before our base form of the verb, and here our verbs are underlined. Will explain, will stand. In this year over here we have will play, will go, will walk. And those shows or these sentences or those sentences basically it shows the future tense form. So like we say, our verb basically stays the same. The only thing we have to do is we add will before our base form of the verb. And that basically turns our sentence into the future tense. All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca. We said our chapter is future tense. And the lesson that we are doing is to change the sentence to the future tense. And remember, we said that when we change sentence to the future tense, we basically add will before our verb. All right, so future tense, right? So the future tense, it tells us about something that is going to happen. The word going to happen, it tells us that it did not happen yet. It's not happening now. It did not happen in the past. It is going to happen. It's going to happen either next week, it's going to happen tomorrow, it's going to happen next month, next year, couple of months' time, but it's going to happen. Even later on, if you're saying you're going to bed at 11, for example, then you're saying, I will go to bed at 11, right? Which means that you did not go to bed yet. You are going to bed at 11. So, meaning I will go to bed at 11 p.m. or I will go to bed at 9 p.m. Or if you're going to be playing your PlayStation at 8 o'clock, then you can maybe say, I will play my PlayStation at 8 p.m. If your friends are coming over tomorrow and you guys are going to the mall, then you can say, I will go to the mall tomorrow, or we will go to the mall tomorrow. So the word will followed by a verb basically gives an indication that it is the future tense. So will followed by the verb, will go, will walk, will play, will, for example, sleep. I will sleep at 8 o'clock. Will surprise. I will surprise my friend with a cake. I will jump on the trampoline or on the jumping castle, right? So will we add before our base word or base form of the verb to show the future tense. All right, so if we look at the sentence, it says, the women arrange their chairs in a circle. The women arrange their chairs in a circle. So this is currently the present tense, right? The women arrange their chairs in a circle. This is the present tense. But we need to change the sentence into the future tense. And how are we going to change the sentence into the future tense? And if we change the sentence into the future tense, right, the word in bold is our verb, right? Remember we said that we add will in front of our verb. So we add will in front of our verb. So if our verb is arrange, then in order for us to change this sentence, this present tense sentence, into the future tense, and then we're going to say, the women will arrange the chairs in a circle. So currently, which is now, The women arrange the chairs in a circle. But in the future, the women will arrange their chairs in a circle. Will arrange. If we look at the sentence, surprise, surprise is our verb. We need to change the sentence, which is in the present, to the future tense. The girls surprise their little brother. How are we going to change that sentence to the future tense? So the girls surprise their little brother. We need to change the sentence to the future tense. All right, so if our present tense verb, right, which is surprise. So if we say that the present tense sentence is the girl surprised the little brother, then we can say, if we change the sentence to the future tense, then we can say that the girls, yeah, will surprise. So the word will comes before our sentence, our verb surprise their little brother. So the girls will surprise their little brother. So at the moment, the girls surprise their little brother, which is now. But in the future, the girls will surprise their little brother. And that word will gives us an indication that it is in the future. It is the future tense. All right, let's look at the sentence before we go to our test. I walk to school every Thursday. I walk to school every Thursday. We need to change that sentence to the future tense. Look at the verb walk. We see that we add will before our verb. So I walk to school every Thursday. And if we change this present tense sentence to the future tense, our verb is walk, and we see that we add will before our verb. So we can say, I will walk to school every Thursday. So I will walk to school every Thursday. And that basically changes our present tense sentence into a future tense sentence. So we said our present tense sentence is I walk to school every Thursday. And if we change that sentence to the future tense, then it is I will walk to school every Thursday. All right. So once again, the future tense it tells us about something that is going to happen. All right. So we look specifically at the verb. So we're going to use a verb in the future tense. But in order for us to use the verb in the future tense, we are then going to add will before the base form of the verb, and then it's going to change that whole sentence into a future tense. All right, so now we're going to do our test. So we're going to select the present tense verb in bold, which is bold, and change it to the future tense. So our verb is bold. And it says, Tess and Janelle build a model of the earth. And that is in the present tense. Something that they're doing now. But we need to basically change this sentence to the future tense. Are we going to say Tess and Janelle build a model of the earth? Or are we going to say Tess and Janelle will build a model of the earth? So we're just going to say they build a model of the earth, or are we going to say they will build a model of the earth? So we need to change that sentence to the future tense. Are we going to say Tess and Janelle build a model of the earth, or are we going to say they will build a model of the earth? All right. Since everybody is quiet today, we're going to say will build, because remember we said that we are adding will in front of our verb to basically show the future tense or to change that present tense sentence into the future tense. So we will say Tess and Janelle will build a model of the earth, and that basically shows the future tense. The boys feed their horses at their uncle's farm. So the boys feed their horses at their uncle's farm. This is our present tense sentence. We need to change the sentence into the future tense. Are we going to say the boys feed the horses at their uncle's farm? Or are we going to say the boys will feed the horses at their uncle's farm? We need to choose the correct option to show or to change that sentence to the future tense. So we're going to say, we're going to choose the word feed, or we're going to choose the word will feed to show the present tense. All right, in order to change the sentence to the future tense, we will say, the boys will feed the horses at their uncle's farm. So, will feed gives us an indication that we are talking about the future tense. All right, so we're looking at the present tense sentence first, which is Paula and Joel save the fossils for their classroom. So Paula and Joel, they save the fossils for their classrooms. So we need to basically change that specific sentence to the future tense. Are we going to say Paula and Joel save the fossils for the classroom? Or we're going to say Paula and Joel will save the fossils for the classroom. We need to choose the correct option to show the future tense or to change that sentence to the future tense. And if we change that sentence into the future tense, we will then say Paula and Joel will save the fossils for the classroom. So that word will before our verb gives us an indication that we are changing the sentence to the future tense. Will save. All right, if we look at our current sentence, which is in the present tense, it says, I walk to school every Thursday. Something that they are doing. I walk to school every Thursday. But in the future, which is next week, which is next month, next year, are we going to say, I walk to school every Thursday? Or I will walk to school every Thursday? All right, and to change the sentence to the future tense, we can say that I will walk to school every Thursday. All right. It says the dogs escape through the open gate in the yard. That is something that is happening now. The dogs escape through the open gate in the yard. Probably because the gate is not properly closed, right? But we need to change this specific sentence to the future tense. And if we change the sentence to the future tense, remember we said that we add will before our verb. So we're going to say the dogs escape through the open gate in the yard, or are we going to say the dogs will escape through the open gate in the yard? All right, so if we change this sentence, which is in the present tense, to the future tense, right? And then we can say that the dogs will escape through the open gate in the yard. So they will escape through the open gate in the yard. So will gives us indication that it is in the future tense. All right, so Martha and Bonnie divide the candy between themselves. So Martha and Bonnie, they divide the candy between themselves. We need to change the sentence to the future tense. Do we say Martha and Bonnie will divide the candy between themselves? Or are we going to say Martha and Bonnie divide the sweets between themselves? So they will divide or just they divide. And if we change the sentence, right, which is currently in the present tense, if we change the sentence to the future tense, right, then we can say Martha and Bonnie will divide the candy between themselves. So will gives us an indication that we are actually changing the sentence to the future tense, or will divide gives an indication that it is in the future tense. Will. All right. So this is basically how we did the chapter of future tense, right? And we specifically focused on the lesson of changing the future tense or the sentence to the future tense. And we said the future tense, it basically shows something that is going to happen, right? It is going to happen. And we said that to use the future tense, right? We need to specifically use the verb in our future tense, the action. And then we need to then add the word will before that verb to give us an indication that we are actually changing the sentence to the future tense to basically show that something is going to happen, right? Meaning that something will still happen in the future, but to show that it did not happen as yet. It is going to happen. So we basically add will in front of our verb to basically show that we are either changing the sentence to the future tense or to basically give us an indication that the sentence is in the future tense. That is if we see a sentence with will before our actual verb. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson, grade threes on future tense. Thank you very much for joining the class. And I really hope that you do have an idea of what future tense is. But for now, you should have a good weekend further. Goodbye.